Hello everyone. This is Dr. Swati Mishra from Suresh Gyan Vihar University's International School of Business Management. Welcome to the next session of Marketing Management series that we are going through. And today's topic of discussion is one of the most important topics of discussions in marketing. Yes, we are going to talk about ethics and social responsibilities in marketing. So, moving ahead with this topic, let's first discuss what are the learning objectives of this topic. This topic basically intends to identify the main ethical issues in marketing, to understand what are the main practices which are a cause of ethical concerns in marketing, and to understand the main seven principles of ethical marketing. So, for a starter, here is a small case study for all of you. This case study I have referred from the Principles of Marketing by Dr. David Kessler. And this case study is tobacco companies control the nicotine levels, in their cigarettes, and in 1940s, nicotine and tar level in cigarettes were more than three times what is it today. Manufacturers have gradually reduced them through refinements in the processing technique to satisfy the demand for smoother and lighter cigarettes. A new battle started between the US Food and Drug Administration and the tobacco companies in 1994 of June. At the center of the debate was damning evidence presented to Congress, which suggested that US tobacco companies had been deliberately manipulating the amount of nicotine in the cigarettes to keep the nation's 46 million smokers addicted. On 21st June 1994, a House of Representatives subcommittee heard allegations that Brown and Williamson B&W Tobacco, a US subsidiary of Britain's BAT Industries, had secretly developed a genetically engineered tobacco called Y1 that contained more than twice the amount of nicotine found in normal tobacco plants. Mr. Mr. David Kessler, head of the US FDA, informed the committee that B&W had earlier denied breeding tobacco, uh, which were high or low in nicotine content. B&W had pounds of Y1 tobacco stored in the US warehouses and had been using it in their five local brands of cigarettes. Kessler suggested that the US tobacco manufacturers had deliberately spiked their products to keep the smokers addicted, and it is difficult to prove it. However, he said that it is sufficient to show that cigarette companies have the ability to control the nicotine levels in their products, allowing them to remain at addictive levels. Such evidence could be used to implicate B&W in the Y1 row to push his case for bringing tobacco under his agency's jurisdiction. If he could show that manufacturers intend consumers to buy them to satisfy an addiction. The discovery of the Y1 high nicotine tobacco proved beyond doubt that the tobacco firms were manipulating and controlling nicotine concentration in their products. B&W defended the allegations. First, it accused Kessler of blowing the issue out of proportion. Second, it stressed the fact that Y1 is nothing secret and just one of a variety of local and foreign tobaccos. It used to give the unique recipe of ingredients that went into each brand. Y1 was a blending tool for flavor. B&W said this. So, tobacco companies argued that they cannot eliminate nicotine altogether from their product as it is an essential contributor to cigarette flavor. Smokers no longer enjoy the cigarettes when the nicotine levels are too low or maybe below a certain point. So, it is important to adjust the level of nicotine and other flavor enhancers to provide what cigarettes consumers actually like. Mr. Walker McCrimmon, vice president of the Tobacco Institute, said that consumer preference was the specific reason for having any particular level of nicotine and tar in any particular cigarette. Low nicotine brands have commanded very low market share, while no nicotine brands had failed through lack of demand. In reality, Kessler is more concerned now with the nicotine content of cigarettes than with the flavor enhancers. The FDA may be able to bring them under its jurisdiction as drug. Kessler can then force the tobacco industry gradually to reduce nicotine levels in their products and so wean smokers away from the habit. The industry position is that cigarettes are not a drug as defined in the 1938 Federal Food, Drug and Cosmetic Act because they do not intend to affect the structure or any function of the body. Furthermore, the manufacturers argue that smoking cannot be addictive because 50% or more of the American citizens today who have ever smoked have quit. Over 90% of them have actually quit without any professional help. On November 1995, February 1995, a New Orleans court ruled that every American ever addicted to nicotine or the relations of any nicotine dependent but now dead American could sue the tobacco companies. Four American states also began to sue for the cost of treating smokers. Following this, there was tobacco advertising debate in the entire Europe. There were reactions from the anti-smoking groups, those groups which were against smoking and the advertisements of cigarettes. So they were pursuing that smoking should be at least discouraged, if not totally banned outright. This led to the enforcement of tighter restrictions, notably on the tobacco advertising. There were bans on tobacco advertising, of course, had different arguments, and cigarette companies were prohibited from advertising on television in many European markets. Yet, the tobacco adverts are not quite dead. Advertisers often resort to the use of cryptic pictures like red motorcycles that give a clue to the consumers to rush and buy the Marlboro because red is the color of Marlboro brand. So in search of new customers, cigarette manufacturers are now targeting the females. In France, Spain, Germany, and Britain, between a quarter and a third of smokers are women. In Sweden, they form a majority of smokers actually. In some countries like India and Hong Kong, women only brands were introduced or launched. So in Baltic states, there are number of women smokers who are increasing day by day. There is a big increase in the number of women smoking. Worse, tobacco firms are preying on children also now. So their aggressive campaigns in the less developed Far Eastern countries with fewer consumer protection laws are also a cause of concern. Now, here are my questions that I would like to pose upon you based on this little case that we have just discussed on tobacco advertising. You should attempt these questions and post your answers in the comment boxes. They'll be most welcomely read and most eagerly read and answered too. If you have any doubts on this case, you can also write them down in the comment box. To expand the demand for cigarettes, but merely to maintain their market share against competitors' brands. Is this a bogus or friendly argument? Second question is, should tobacco firms take greater responsibility for communicating the health hazards of smoking and discouraging the habits? Third question is, can society expect the industry to regulate its own actions and practice socially responsible marketing? And my fourth question is, can customers and society at a large be left to develop their own sense? Now let us continue with the main topic of discussion, which was ethical marketing and the social responsibilities. So consumers have many concerns about how well marketing and businesses as a whole serve their interests. Consumer advocates, government agencies, and other critics have accused marketing of harming the consumers through high prices, unethical advertising, unfair competition, and poor service to the disadvantaged customers. As far as the high prices are concerned, many critics charge that marketing practices actually raise the cost of goods and cause prices to be higher than they would be if clever marketing were not applied. They point to three facts mainly, like the high costs of distribution, high advertising and promotion costs, and excessive markups. So, marketing practices have always been criticized for this, that, whatever the original cost of a product is, the marketing is actually, increasing those cost of goods and persuading the customers to buy the products at those higher prices. Next is the high cost of distribution. There is a long-standing charge that the greedy intermediaries are adding up the markup prices beyond actually the value of the services that they are offering, which means that the value that is added by the intermediaries when the product moves from the producer till the consumer through those intermediaries, critics have always charged that either there are too many intermediaries or that the intermediaries are very inefficient and poorly run. They provide unnecessary or duplicate services actually, and that is why they practice poor management and planning also. And as a result, the distribution costs keep increasing, and the consumers have to pay excessively high costs of as the in the form of the higher prices that a consumer is bearing for that product. The next is the high advertising and promotion costs. Obviously, any kind of promotional practice that a company is doing for promoting its product in the market, the cost that is incurred for that promotion is also included in the price of the product. So, modern marketing is also accused of pushing up the prices due to the heavy advertising and sales promotion. For example, in case of differentiated products like cosmetics, detergents, toiletries, they include promotion and packaging costs that can amount to around 40% of or more of the manufacturer's price to the retailer. Then, of course, there are excessive markups. Critics also charge that some companies mark up goods excessively. And due to these excessive markups, the consumer is overburdened by the high prices of the products. And because of this, the consumers' interests are hampered badly, and the consumers which are belonging to the lower income groups suffer maximum. Now let's talk about the different malpractices that we had actually spoken about at the start of the section. Uh, first I'm taking is the deceptive practices. Marketers are sometimes accused of deceptive practices that lead the consumers to actually believe that they will get more value of the product than they actually do. So deceptive marketing practices basically fall into three major categories: deceptive pricing, deceptive promotion, and deceptive packaging. So deceptive pricing includes practices like falsely advertising the factory or the wholesale prices or a large price reduction from a phony high retail price list. So deceptive promotion includes practices like the overstatements of the product's features or performance, luring the customer to the store for a bargain that is out of stock or running rigid contests. Deceptive packaging basically includes exaggerating the package contents through subtle design or filling the package to the top, using leading labeling or describing the size in misleading terms. Many times we purchase dry snack food packs, and especially it hampers the people who are either not very well educated and informed, and sometimes it hampers the kids also too much, because the packaging of dry snack food packets, they are in huge sachets, and a lot of air is filled so that the dry snack food does not get cracked or broken or crushed into pieces. But there is this weight that is being put on the label of the packet. So in that case, what happens is that it misleads the consumer to think that they are going to get more quantity than that is actually in the packet. Similarly, any kind of advertising that is done for the kids, especially deceptive advertising, is highly risky, and it is very crucial when you are actually advertising to children under the age of 10 and sometimes under the age of teens. That is because they are very innocent at that time. And if you are over exaggerating the features of any product, like if you are showing your mascot of the brand eating a bubble gum and jumping from one building to the other, or maybe from one mountain to the other waterfall, the kids tend to believe that that is actually going to happen when they eat that product or consume that product, and they might actually try those stunts, and there have been some major tragedies which have been reported, leading to fatal accidents of kids who believe that that advertisement is actually going to help them in can lead to major losses in the especially as far as the consumers are concerned. Deceptive practices have actually led to legislation, and of course the other consumer protection actions also. Lot of positive steps have already been taken by these organizations in the benefit of the customers, to keep the consumers interest protected and to keep the consumers rights well protected. So let's take the discussion further and move on to the next type of malpractices that we are going to talk today about. And the next one is the high pressure selling. Now, salespeople are sometimes accused of high pressure selling that actually persuades the people to buy goods that they had not even thought of buying. Many times it must have happened to a lot of viewers that they went to a mall or maybe a retail store to buy something and ended up buying something else. They had not even thought of actually purchasing that. Maybe you went to buy an induction plate and you ended up buying a microwave. It is often said that cars, financial services, property, home improvement plans, they are all sold and they are not bought, which means that the salespeople are, you know, actually trying to create those sales rather than people themselves willing to buy those products. So salespeople are basically trained to deliver smooth and canned talks to entice the purchase. They sell hard because commissions are fixed, sales contests are promising some big prices to the ones who are going to achieve the targeted sales of the month. And there are big promotions also which are involved in these sales processes, and good rewards are given by companies to the people who sell the most. So marketers exactly know that buyers can often be talked into buying unwanted or unneeded things. A key question here is whether the industry self-regulatory or trading standard bodies, consumer protection laws, and consumer interest groups are sufficiently effective in checking and curbing down those unsavory sales practices or not. Next is the shoddy or unsafe products. Another criticism is that products lack the quality that they should actually have, or what a person perceives to be present in that product that he is purchasing. So one complaint is that products are not made well. Such complaints have been lodged against the products and services which are ranging from home appliances, cars, clothing, to any kind of car repair services also. Like if you send your car for a repair service and you do not get that service, so a second complaint is that some products deliver very little benefit. In an attempt to persuade the customers to buy their brand rather than any other manufacturer's brand, sometimes they happen to make claims that are not fully substantiated. And sometimes they often actually do some false promises also to the customers, just to close the sale or just to lock the deal. So when they are making such type of false promises, a consumer's interest really gets badly hampered. And a third complaint concerns a product safety also. Product safety has been a problem for several reasons, including manufacturer indifference, increased production complexity, poorly trained labor which is hired in the organization, and sometimes poor quality control also. But this is something that has to be kept in mind, that your little compromises that you are making towards the quality can be sometimes fatal for the consumers. Like if you are manufacturing a gas oven, and you're not keeping the safety concerns and your quality is poor, it might lead to some fatal accidents for the consumers in future who are buying your products. So that is why this is something of which requires a serious concern. For years now, consumer protection groups or associations in many countries uh, have regularly tested the products for safety. They have also reported the hazards that were found in the tested products, and like electrical dangers that are there in the appliances, any kind of injury risk from lawn mowers, or maybe any kind of faulty car designs. They all have been reported. The testing and reporting activities of these organizations have actually helped consumers lot of dilemma, you know, when it is concerned in balancing the consumer needs with the ethical considerations. I'll give you an example here. Like, no amount of test results can actually guarantee for product safety in cars if your consumer is valuing speed and power more than the safety features, right? So what can the car company do in this case? If you want speedy cars and if you are interested in, off track biking or off track car racing, how can you actually guarantee all the product safety features to function in those cases, and they are not even valuing it? So however, most of the responsible manufacturers do want to have good quality products to be produced. The way a company deals with product quality and the safety problems, they can damage or help its reputation to be built up. So companies which are selling poor quality or any kind of unsafe products, they risk damaging conflicts with the consumer groups. Moreover, unsafe products can result in product liability suits and large awards for damages also. Consumers who are unhappy with a firm's products may avoid its other products and talk other consumers into doing the same. So, more fundamentally, today's marketers know that any kind of self imposed high ethical standards, which, accompany customer driven quality, they will result in customer satisfaction, which in turn creates profitable customer relationships also. Next in line is the planned obsolescence. Critics have charged that some producers follow a program of planned obsolescence, causing their products to become obsolete before they need replacement. In many cases, producers have been accused of continually changing the product features, product styles in order to encourage more and earlier buying also. A very good example of this is constantly changing clothing fashions. Producers have also been accused of holding back some attractive features of the products, especially in case of electronic goods, mobile phones. When a product is launched, some features are kept back or holded back, and maybe after 3 months of the launching of the product, after 3 months they introduce a new range of those handsets, with those features. So this is creating a lot of problem for the customers also, because they believe that due to constant technology advancements and new features getting added into newer products, their products become obsolete very fast. Similarly, due to constant technological changes, the products become so obsolete that their spare parts are also not available sometimes. So critics have always claimed that this practice is frequently found in consumer and computer industries also. Sometimes it happens that in case of electronics industries, when you go to buy a spare part for your washing machine, they tell you that the washing machine stopped getting manufactured 2 years back, and now the spare parts are not available anywhere, and what you have to do, you have to buy duplicate spare parts from somewhere else which do not even have good quality. Sometimes they lack warranty also. Let's come to the next point of discussion now, which is poor service to the disadvantaged customers. So finally, we are coming to the final step of this. The marketing has been accused of poorly serving disadvantaged customers. So critics claim that the urban poor often have to shop in smaller stores that carry interior goods and charge higher prices. So these inferior goods are actually the goods which are not, very updated. Sometimes obsolete products are sold in these types of small malls and smaller stores. So marketing's eye is basically on profits, and it also means that disadvantaged consumers are not viable segments to the target to target. So the high income consumer is the preferred target as compared to the lower income group people. So clearly, better marketing systems must be built in low income areas also. One hope is to get large retailers to open outlets in lower income areas also. Moreover, the low income people clearly need consumer protection more. Then, of course, there are other claims like, the false wants and too much of materialism introduction. A lot of critics have charged that in advanced nations like USA, the marketing system basically urges too much of interest in material possessions. People are now judged by what they own rather than what they are. It doesn't matter whether you are highly educated, whether you are in a very good profession. What matters more is whether you are driving a Mercedes or not. So, to be considered successful, people must own, it is believed. I'm not saying that, it is believed these days due to this excessive spread of materialistic approach amongst the people. They've started believing that to be considered successful, people must own a smart looking house or an apartment in a prime residential site, drive in expensive cars, and the latest designer label clothes should be worn, and the best possible consumer electronic goods should be owned by them. So these kind of unrealistic approach towards the lifestyle has been developed by the people, and this leads to a very sad movement of the society towards the wrong destinations. Then, of course, there are too few social goods that are associated. Like businesses have been accused of overselling the private goods, which are actually sold at the expense of public goods. As private goods are increasing, they require more and more public services that are usually not forthcoming. For example, with an increase in the car ownership, which is a private good, you require more roads, more traffic control, more parking spaces, and of course, more police services also. And what are all these that I mentioned? They are all public services. So, the overselling of private goods results in social costs. For the cars, the social costs not only include the above mentioned ones, but also, excessive traffic congestion, air pollution, deaths due to injuries from car accidents, and all these things. And what happens is to have more and more roads, to have more and more police services, and all these things for controlling the air pollution, for controlling the for hospital services in case of accidents. What are we doing? We have to pay more taxes, and those taxes are not paid by one, but the entire lot of citizens. The entire country has to pay for those costs. So a way must be found to restore a balance between the private and public goods. One option is of course to make the producers bear the social costs of their operations. For example, the government could require car manufacturers to build cars with additional safety features and better pollution control systems also. Car makers would then raise their prices to cover the extra cost. If buyers found the price of some cars too high, however, the producers of these cars would disappear, and demand would move to those producers that could support both private and social costs. So, these things have to be kept in mind when we are, actually deciding upon the marketing strategies. The next is the cultural pollution that is occurring. Another very sensitive thing that we forego or we underestimate. Critics charge that the marketing system, you know, with lots and lots of different types of marketing practices, is actually creating a lot of cultural pollution. Our senses are constantly being assaulted constantly by different types of advertising that is being hammered upon us right from morning till evening 24/7. Commercials are interrupting some serious programs that we watch on television. The pages of ads obscure the actual printed material that we want to read. The billboards on the roadsides are, hampering the beautiful scenery that we want to see, that we should see. So these interruptions, they are constantly polluting a person's mind. Then, of course, there is too much of political power which is involved in these marketing activities. Another criticism to this is that business wields too much political power, like oil, tobacco, pharmaceuticals, financial services, and alcohol. They have the support of important political as well as civil servants also, important politicians and civil servants who look after an industry's interest against the public interest. So advertisers are constantly being accused of, holding too much of power over the mass media, limiting their freedom to report independently and objectively. So now we move towards what actually businesses should do. What is a business's responsibility, or what is the social responsibility of the marketeers and the companies towards the society? So, whatever your marketing practices or actions are, they should be actually woven around the outlines of the few points that I have mentioned in front of you on the screen. Like the consumer oriented marketing, which means that whatever marketing practices are carried out by an organization, they should be having an orientation towards its consumers. They should look into the best interest of the consumer while deciding upon the practices of marketing that they are using. Of course, innovative marketing should be used, smart marketing practices should be used, but they should not, create any kind of cultural pollution. They should not be deceiving or deceptive. They should always be a valued marketing, which means that whenever a customer is, getting the product or receiving any marketing campaigns messages, it should hold some kind of value in it. Then, of course, the sense of mission marketing should be there. And last but not the least, societal marketing should be kept into mind. We've already studied in our previous few sessions as to what societal marketing is. And when you are doing marketing in the benefit of the society, you know, it is one of the most important actions that a marketing manager or maybe the organization which is conducting those marketing campaigns will be taking, thus keeping the society at the you know foremost front and as the most important part while making your decisions. Now we'll just talk about a few marketing ethics. You know, high publicity scandals. Some of them have also made to the international news. What's one such scandal unfortunately happened in India also. Others are also there to be listed, but I'm just mentioning one. And this case was of Union Carbide's plant in Bhopal in India. It's a city in India, which negligently released toxic fumes, killing around 25,000 people. So, this serves to remind the society of the pressing imperatives for corporations to actually, act in a very ethical manner. These companies need to develop a corporate marketing ethical policies, a code of conduct for these ethical policies. Such policies should offer broad guidelines that everyone in the organization has to follow. They must cover the distributor relations, advertising standards, customer service, pricing, product development, and of course, other general ethical standards also. Managers need a set of principles that will actually help them to figure out the moral importance of each situation and decide how far they can go in the good conscience. Now, a second philosophy basically puts responsibility not in the system but in the hands of the individual companies and the managers also. And of course, this is a more enlightening philosophy. It suggests that a company should have its own social conscience. Each company and each marketing manager must work out a philosophy of social responsibility as well as ethical behavior. Many industrial and professional associations have suggested, the codes of ethics, and many companies are now adopting their own codes of ethics also. So now we reach to the final part of this session, which is the principles of public policy towards the marketing. So I have listed the 7 most important principles, which are also mentioned in the book of Principles of Marketing by Professor Philip Kotler. The principle of consumer and producer freedom, which means that both consumer and producer shall be having the freedom of producing and consuming the products which are in the best interest of the consumers also, not only the industry. And for this, there should be a consumer centric approach by the organization. Then the principle of curbing any kind of potential harm towards the organization, which means towards the customers by the organization, which means that if the product or the marketing is causing any potential harm, then they should be curbed down. Then comes the principle of meeting the basic needs of the customers, like, especially for those who belong to the disadvantaged society with lower incomes. Then comes the principle of economic efficiency. All the marketing measures that are taken, they should have an economic efficiency. They should be economically efficient. They should be curbing down the unnecessarily large costs that are arose in the marketing practices. Then comes the principle of innovation, wherein you are innovating smarter products and smarter ways of marketing them. Then there is the principle of consumer education and information. Every consumer should be well informed and well educated so that they can take wise decisions while purchasing a product. They do not fall prey to the canned talks by the salespeople who are just trying to, you know, close the sales and meet the targets. Then comes the principle of consumer protection, wherein it is a government and other semi-government organizations are playing a huge role in the protection of consumers' rights and consumers' interests. So, with this, we come to an end of the session. We have discussed almost all the aspects of ethical issues that are raised by different critics around the world. We have also discussed a mini case study on the tobacco industry, and I have also posed in front of you what actions and what principles an organization should follow to have the best and the most ethical marketing practices being followed by that organization. So now we are up for a small quiz here. Here's my first question. Which of the following ethical precepts can be used in media? The golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. C. B. The golden mean: finding a middle way is better than an extreme. C. The categorical imperative: rules or laws should only be used that would apply to everyone at all times. D. All of the above can be used. Yes, the answer is D. All of the above can be used. Question number 2. Business interest in media organizations can often supersede the public interest entrusted to that organization. This can happen in which of the following ways? A. Advertisers threaten to stop advertising unless the media organization stops or changes coverage of the company or a controversial issue. B. Lack of consumer power amongst disadvantaged groups can mean they get less news coverage or are mostly portrayed in a negative light. C. Cutting staff to save money can affect the quality of news coverage as journalists get even more overworked. D. Journalists often lack professional development training because of media organizations' unwillingness to support such training. E. All of the above. Yes, the answer is E. All of the above. My next question is ethical issues in public relations would not include which of the following? A. Lying by omission or giving a misleading impression. B. Protecting the privacy rights of clients. C. Hiring an assassin to silence opponents. D. Safeguarding clients' confidential information. E. Any of the above. Yes, the answer is C. C. Hiring an assassin to silence the opponents. Question number 4. The American Advertising Federation Code of Ethics includes which of the following? A. To tell the truth. B. Reveal significant facts. C. To not mislead the public. And D. All of the above. E. None of the above. The answer is D. All of the above. My next question is ethical issues in entertainment media would not include which of the following? Actors portraying characters in stereotypic roles in TV shows or movies, gratuitous depictions of sex or violence in TV shows or movies, product placements in children's programs on TV, D, all of the above, E, none of the above. And the answer is D, all of the above. And this is my last question. Kufri in advertising is an ethical A, gray area, sometimes okay, sometimes not okay. B, violation at all times. C, standard media should strive towards strive toward. D, rule followed in tobacco marketing. E, any of the above. And the answer is A, gray area. Sometimes okay, sometimes not okay. So with this, we come to an end of our session on ethics and social responsibility in marketing management. I hope you have thoroughly enjoyed this session and had a keen insight with the topic. This is Dr. Swati Mishra from the International School of Business Management by Suresh Ganviar University signing off. Thank you so much for attending this session and your comments are welcome. If you have any questions regarding the session, you can post in the message box. Thank you so much.